Welcome to a football show, Thursday edition, week one of the NFL season, week one of the Cam Ward era, week one of the Mike Borgonzi era, set to begin on Sunday. That is Nick Suss of the Tennessean, great reporter for the Tennessean, pay for good local journalism, Tennessean.com. I am Braden Gall, at Braden Gall across the internet. If you want to get involved that way, please jump into the comment section. Obviously, YouTube now ranks all of our commenters into categories of being awesome. So jump into the comment section. We would appreciate to see you guys all here today. We'll talk lots of Titans, obviously, as we preview holistically for the final time, Nick, the Tennessee Titans season. But I want to kind of do it a little differently. I want to do it looking at the Broncos game and what we can learn about this team. I want to do it looking at the AFC and sort of where the Titans fall in all of this. We got PK's opinions on Monday. I want to get your opinions on that. But it's also about players. It's about the division. It's about singular things that we're looking for from this organization. And I want to have a really long conversation start about the organization's view of itself.
Yeah.
And then the fans' view of the organization's view.
Correct.
Is what I want to dive into. Great stuff from you on the Tennessean. Lots of stuff over there. So we're going to dive into a lot of that today on the show. Of course, obviously, Sinkers Beverages. Good morning, Eddie. Good to see you. Sinkers Beverages. I don't know what else you need to know, but you got football starting tonight, NFL football. You got NFL football tomorrow night in, is it Brazil, correct?
Yes,
tomorrow night?
yes.
Which is also where the Titans are huge in Brazil, apparently, and Ukraine and Australia, I'm learning.
Yeah.
You went all over the world to find Titans fans. I appreciate that.
I did.
And so you got NFL football all weekend. You got Sunday NFL football, Monday NFL football, Saturday college football. So you're going to need some beverages for all those different, beautiful, wonderful times. And so make sure you swing by Sinkers Beverages to pick up something fantastic for whatever watch party you might be attending on Sunday for your Tennessee Titans or whatever SEC team you might love or care about on Saturday. If not, do not drink and drive. I don't think this is a new message or one that anyone doesn't already know. It's like when I look at my kids, no, you should have already known that. Search Uber Eats for Sinkers Beverages and have them deliver the booze right to your door. It's pretty awesome, actually. It's pretty great. And then Shotgun Willie's Barbecue, of course, our great barbecue partner, the best brisket in the city, open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wednesday through Sunday. All right, so I've been looking at a lot of predictions from a lot of Tennessee Titans media folk about the NFL broadly.
Sure.
And what's hitting me, and it's not just Titans media, it's a lot of media, that people think that the Green Bay Packers are going to win the division. And this is where I do not. I don't either. This is where I want to start with sort of the expectations internally from the Titans. And so number one, I am doing a lot of self-analyzing and processing around my the depths of my cynicism in sports.
Sure.
Because I do feel like I get way too cynical about sports in general. This is my 21st college football season covering this sport. 20 years in the media. I've reached a point of total and utter, I've been taken over by cynicism. And I want to promise all of you who listen that I will not allow PK to drag me down into an even further dark place of cynicism, that I want to express my joy and excitement around the football season.
Yeah.
And here's my journey. This is why I bring this up, Nick. Sorry, I know this is a long soliloquy to begin the show here. But the Packers are picked by everybody, by a lot of people, to win the division. And so here's what happens to my brain. And you'll see the point of all of this because I want this to be I want to understand the Titans fans' brain as well, which is that I think that's ridiculous at first because I think it is headline driven off of the Micah Parsons move because they were not close to being competitive to good football teams in the NFC last year. They were a really good team. But every time they played better teams, they got beat. Twice against the Lions, twice against the Vikings, twice against the Eagles. They got beat every time. They were not really that close. Now, it's a new year. There are new players. There's a new draft class. There's new free agents. They traded for Micah Parsons, $188 million, 2 first-round picks. He's hopeful he's going to play. And even then, my brain tells me, what are people doing? Why are people picking the Green Bay Packers to win the division? And then I have to allow myself to become like my 8-year-old daughter for a second and just see it through her eyes, which is, hey, we got a chance, man. Yeah. We got a chance. Maybe the draft class is great. Maybe Jordan Love does take a step forward. Maybe Micah Parsons is Reggie White. And while my brain tells me, probably not. And last year's evidence says definitely not. I have to allow myself or I have to force myself to just allow for the possibility that they could be better this year, win the division, and maybe this is the year that Matt LaFleur gets them to the Super Bowl. I don't think so, but maybe.
So
that was a long journey.
No. And this is a segue into hope, and this is a segue into why I care about hope. Back in May, I was working from my parents' basement back in Georgia. And while I was working, one of my favorite songs came on, a song called All Kinds of Time by Fountains of Wayne. And now I will give you a reading from the book of Adam Schlesinger. Here are the lyrics to that song. The clock's running down. The team's losing ground to the opposing defense. The young quarterback waits for the snap, when suddenly it all starts to make sense. He's got all kinds of time. He takes a step back, he's under attack, but he knows that no one can touch him now. He seems so at ease, a strange inner peace is all that he's feeling somehow. He's got all kinds of time. He thinks of his mother, he thinks of his bride-to-be, he thinks of his father and his two younger brothers. They're gathered around the widescreen TV. He looks to the left, he looks to the right, and there in a golden ray of light is his open man, just like he planned. The whole world is his tonight. He's got all kinds of time. And I was thinking about that song and trying to remember why I knew that song. I've known it my entire life, and I have absolutely no idea why I know it. And I'm going through the recesses of my memory, going. And then I remember 20 years ago, back in 2005, NFL Network used that song in a promo for a commercial for the beginning of football season. And it was a 1-minute supercut of every quarterback you can think of between 1940 and 2005, all set to them making one fluid motion together. So it's like Terry Bradshaw takes the snap, and then Joe Montana takes the first step back, and then Dan Fouts takes the second one, and then it's Donovan McNabb. And you just see them rolling through. You can find this commercial on YouTube. And I watched it, and I cried. Like, I genuinely started crying, thinking about the symbol of quarterback as hope in America, as hope in American football, as what this stands for. We're just allowed to play music on the pod.
This is the right song, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just playing it through my phone. This is just on my phone. I'm just
okay. And so
does Fountains of Wayne count as emo dad rock?
No, it's power pop. This is power pop.
Okay. That's what I thought.
If we're getting lexicography.
I got you.
But so I started thinking about hope. Not a haircut. I just showered like 5 minutes ago. People keep thinking this is a haircut. My hair is just flatter.
I think it looks like a haircut too, Coach Wills. By the way, Coach Wills might be our top commenter, so there you go.
So all of this is to say, I started thinking about Titans fans, and I started thinking about Cam Ward as a symbol of hope. People have hope. People care about the Tennessee Titans, despite the fact that dating back to November of 2022, this team is 9-32. That is the worst record in the NFL over that stretch. People still have hope. People still believe in this franchise. I did this survey. You guys have all heard about this survey. 492 people were asked the question, I believe the Titans are ... One person said in a good place. One out of 492 said in a good place. And yet, very crucially, when I ask questions about, will you remain a Titans fan? 471 people out of 493 who answered said, yes, I will remain a Titans fan. And so we have a gap between less than 1% of 1% of 1% of people saying, yeah, this is what I want the Titans to be. What's the percentage here on this? 95.5% of people surveyed are like, I like this, I'm going to keep doing this. And I wanted to know why.
But only 60% would recommend other people doing it.
Yes, only 60. We'll get into that more.
It's so weird.
It's so weird. It's so strange. I actually talked to a hope scientist about this, and we laughed for like 10 minutes about that disconnect. But yeah, we can get into the story. Essentially, if you guys haven't read it, and Braden, if you want to drop the link into the chat somewhere. I got the story right here. I can give
Yeah,
it to you in the private chat.
Why don't you can? Oh, that's right. You got to send it to me first. That's right.
Yeah, I send it to you in the private chat behind the.
Well,
doors.
Austin, you say hope is a powerful drug, and she definitely, like, in your story, she's referencing how much better hope is than, but like she goes right to heroin.
Yeah,
she's like, well, it's better than heroin.
Yeah, hope is much better than heroin. Rooting for a sports team is much better than heroin or alcohol or any of that stuff. But like, look,
feels worse sometimes.
The point of this entire saga, and for what it's worth, that hope scientist, hardcore Chicago White Sox fan.
Ooh,
so
well, they got a World Series in 05. That's fine.
She gets it. But look, I wanted to answer, why do Titans fans still have hope? And what are the Tennessee Titans' actual relationships to that hope? Yeah. And I set out to speak to Amy Adams Strunk about this. Spent about a month trying to corral that. Got close, didn't quite get there.
How physically close were you? Like 100 yards?
But we ended up talking to Burke Nihill and Chad Brinker about overarching vision, about big picture goals for this team. And look, I will probably say that this passage is the most important part of what the Titans want to do. So I will just read this for you guys straight from the story. Please read the rest of the story. Back in January, Chad Brinker met with Amy Adams Strunk. In Brinker's retelling of the meeting, the owner expressed displeasure with the franchise's trajectory, named her goal of being one of the NFL's elite franchises, and asked what needed to be done to get there. Thus, a vision unfurled. Here were the tenets: emphasis on stability and continuity in leadership positions, organizational alignment on big picture goals and the processes used to achieve them, a people-first culture, selectiveness in roster building, getting younger and allowing that youth to develop, being patient, thinking of the organization you want to leave behind someday, not the organization as it is today.
And I would like oxygen and water today, at some point during my life.
So I'm not saying that this is transformative. I'm not saying that this is, holy cow, they've thought of something no one else has thought of. When I brought that up to, I believe it was Burke, he just goes, yeah, I mean, why haven't we been doing this all along, right? Like, this is fundamental stuff.
Burke can be a smartass sometimes, but like in a good way. Yeah. I like it.
In a fundamental way, that last part is, I think, the most important thing to hear about the Titans. The first thing, when Brinker tells me the organizational goals, is have people around and stick to them. And that's what fans want to hear. And that's what we're going to talk about in this next section. Mm-hmm. But the last part, I think, is really telling, is reframing the job as less about what can I do to make things better now, and more about what's going to be here when I'm gone. Because everybody will admit they're going to get fired at some point.
The cat will still be here when you're gone.
Cat will still be here, yes.
Sorry.
Everybody is going to get fired at some point.
Yeah.
That is impossible not to in the NFL. Bill Belichick got fired.
It's the job.
The job, you will be fired. So what's going to happen when you leave? What infrastructure do you have in place, or did you leave behind, to make sure that things keep going according to your beliefs after you're gone? Who are the people you're bringing up behind you? Who are the people you're mentoring? What organizational culture are you bringing to make it so? So I was looking at this, a lot of talk of Mount Rushmore franchises in the NFL. People have brought it up to me. People have brought it up to other reporters. The Titans want to be a Mount Rushmore franchise. The Baltimore Ravens have made 2 coach or GM changes since 1999.
Like, that's when they started, right? Or 97?
They started in 97, I believe.
97, yeah.
The Green Bay Packers have made 2 coach or GM changes since 2005. The Pittsburgh Steelers have made 1 coach or GM change since 2007. And the Seattle Seahawks have made 1 coach or GM change since 2011. The Titans have made 3 in 3 years. Let's just hear that. Let's just think about what that means. When you are trying to say the future of this franchise is based on having an organizational identity and sticking to something. Brian Gutekunst, GM of the Green Bay Packers, has worked for the Packers organization this entire century. Eric DeCosta, GM of the Baltimore Ravens, has worked for the organization the entire century. Omar Khan, general manager of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe it's like 2001 when he got there. So practically the entire century. You have teams that hired from within because they saw success and replicated what they were taught and are now teaching it to the people beneath them and are just churning through identity, are churning through structure.
Keeping the same identity. Churning the personality, maybe.
Yeah. And so this isn't to say, oh, just do that, because people leave for jobs all the time in the NFL. Brinker was in that Green Bay model his entire career and came here. Borgonzi was in Kansas City his entire career, came here.
Don't you imagine Kansas City will be on that Rushmore pretty soon here in the next 5-10 years? And then you're going to have two guys from, my point is, then you'll have two guys from those organizations trying to replicate that.
And that's not to say that Kansas City isn't on that Mount Rushmore. I just use those four examples because they are the four paragons of consistency. Yeah. Andy Reid, I believe, has already worked with 3 GMs. Like this, there's a little more turnover over there.
Sure.
But
New England would have to, I mean, how do you evaluate New England with just Belichick? But that's not the point of the conversation. So I got it.
So when you're talking about the institutions that, reading between the lines, the Titans want to be the most like, the Titans are in the phase now where they are trying to establish an infrastructure of people who are going to stick around and are going to be, to use PJ Fleckisms, rowing the boat in the same direction. I think
so good.
So we can move on to practicality, because what I've just talked about is vision. This is the pie in the sky goal, is hire a bunch of people who are here for the long haul, institute a long-term vision. Like, clearly that's what they should be doing. Emphasis on younger players and getting them to play early. That's stuff we've known, but it's nice to hear an executive say it directly. Some of these other
draft, develop, retain is not,
draft, develop, retain, people first, selective roster building, patience.
Again,
like none of this is.
Again, oxygen and water. I need oxygen and water today, Nick, to survive. I don't want to. Sorry, you're on a roll, and I want you to keep going. But Sean had Sean, thank you for hanging out with us. He went to the Kansas State-Iowa State game. He wants to pick a college team. I'm not forgetting about that. I'm just sort of putting a benchmark in that and saying, Sean, we will get to that. That's a really fantastic conversation to have.
Yeah, well,
around like which team you should watch in college that has a lot of prospects that the Titans might be interested in, and also would be fun for you to watch from Ireland. That'd be great. Okay, sorry. All right, so
Part two.
This is all the vision. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. Honestly, a little Sinkers Beverages would help with the vision. Just like you get more creative. The prefrontal cortex slows down. You actually can connect things in your brain. I'm not going to go into the science of it, but it's science. Have a couple beers, you'll have better friends. You'll be more honest, and you'll be more creative. That's just true. And get that beer from Sinkers Beverages. So the vision is your big number one bullet point, which you've laid out. I want you to start with two things. When you asked Burke Nihill and Chad Brinker to sort of describe what that is and what that looks like and what that means, you got 1,300 words total?
Yeah, about 1,400 words total? 1,500 words.
My first question is, why did they feel the need to – rambling's not the right word, but it is – I know what it's like to give long-winded answers.
Yeah.
So why do you think they felt the need to keep going?
I think that there is let's use the word fatigue here, with the narrative that they haven't outlined a vision. I think that, especially from the football side, when Borgonzi was hired and the draft, develop, retain thing was put out there, that felt like, okay, people know our vision now. We're going to draft, we're going to develop, we're going to retain. And so being as articulate and as verbose as possible when talking about those topics is a way of saying, no, this is really it. Like, trust us.
Just pounding it home. Drive it home. Yeah.
Let me fundamentally explain that this is this.
Yeah.
With Burke, it's a slightly different thing because he talks from more of the team side, the franchise side.
I need to sell box suite side.
And so I said that Brinker's 700-word not manifesto, statement would have been summed up in 3: draft, develop, retain. Burke's was 4: high impact, low ego. His entire vision comes down to that. And whether you want to call those buzzwords, whether you want to call it cynically just that's good organization, I think this was on the cutting room floor. I don't think this ended up in the story, but Burke and I talked about a book that he stands by called Good to Great, which is about companies that made the jump from good to great. And
that's such a Vrabalism.
And it's about, like, why did car company A survive when car company B didn't flourish? What are the differences between competitive companies? One went from good to great, one stayed good or floundered. What
Google or Yahoo.
Yeah. And so it's a book about that, and we talked about it, and he said, when you read the book, as corny as it sounds, as cheesy as it sounds, the number one trait that all of these companies had in common was a general will to prevail. Is this idea that we're going to do it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to win. Yeah. And the companies that had the doubt or the creeping suspicion that something isn't going to work were the ones that were less successful. Now, that is not necessarily... Good joke, Ed.
Google had the quarterback. I like it.
But look, I don't know if that's how you build a roster. But when you're in Burke's position and you are hiring for the people around the roster, for the actual organizational identity, that good to great mentality, high impact, low ego, leave behind a team that's better than the one you saw it, build that infrastructure so that the organization flourishes with or without you. That's what they're talking about. And that's why it was such a long answer. But all of this kind of comes back to the practicality question, because there is a difference between vision and goal. Vision is what you want to see. Goal is how you're going to see it.
Well, so the segue to that, to me, is you asking Burke and Chad kind of through the voice of the fan, like, well, how can you reassure me that you are, in theory, doing that, and that's not, and that it's not going to lead to more changes, more chaos, more rash decisions, an owner who, by the way, according to your poll, has a lower approval rating than the head coach. When they don't have a quick answer to that, they have 1,500 words for the identity. And then you say, well, but how can you reassure us that you're going to stay the course, that you're going to be, that you are committed to these folks long term, that this is the identity, you have the right people in place to build the thing you're telling us you want to build. And then Burke Nihill has to take 14 seconds to think about that, and Chad Brinker has to take time to think about that. And I'm not saying they're wrong or whatever. I'm just saying,
yeah,
human psychology is a big part of what you and I clearly enjoy covering about this, about everything. And so to watch them do that is there has to be a disconnect between 1,500 words and then not having the immediate answer.
And so I don't want to say that is an illustration of criticism. Like, I am appreciative that Burke was thoughtful on that answer.
Sure.
But I think that it is indicative of, look, you practice what you preach, but you can't pigeonhole yourself. And, like, there is a difference between wanting to insist upon a belief system and willfully ignoring negative data.
Sure. And I'm not saying the answers are wrong, by the way. That's not what I'm saying. It is a hard question to answer.
It's a really tricky question to answer.
Especially since Amy has all the power to do all that whenever she wants.
And that's what I was about to say, is I wish that is the question that Amy could have answered, because only she can answer that question. But I think that when we talk about this, we have to compare it against expectation. Because I think that sometimes when people within the organization hear that fans want more accountability, they hear that as, well, we have people talking, we have people saying stuff. When I believe, from talking to fans, I did 3-4 hours worth of Zoom calls with fans talking about these concepts. And when people talk about accountability, what they tend to be talking about is, just let me know why you did something, and let me know why it didn't work, and let me know what's different now.
What are you going to do about it?
And That's really tough because this is a people business, and people do not want to talk badly about other people in their business. And so it's hard to say, this is why we got rid of Mike Vrabel specifically. This is why we got rid of Ram Carthon specifically. But that's what fans want to hear. And so I think this is the disconnect, is that when fans clamor for accountability, and you guys in the comments are fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when fans clamor for accountability, they're saying, please just rationalize your decisions and tell me why the new guy is better off than the old guy.
Yep.
When the team hears about accountability, they're saying, okay, well, we are going to have a front-facing person who speaks on behalf of the organization. I have a quote. If you want to plug a sponsor or something, I can find the full quote from a reader that I think really sums up this entire conversation. And
Sinkers Beverages, everybody, four times. Talk about identity and culture and people driven. You talk about having a vision for the future and executing your goals in the present and building something that will last beyond you. 40 plus years of serving the East Nashville community and 4 straight championships for Sinkers Beverages. I don't know what else you want from them. Maybe you could ask them about what it's like to build a top-down or a bottom-up organization. Yeah, it was top-down. Middle out is the Silicon Valley term. Middle out. The TV show, not the area. Sinkers Beverages, of course, Uber Eats, search Sinkers Beverages, have that booze delivered directly to your house. Shotgun Willie's Barbecue open today, everybody, Wednesday through Sunday. From scratch side items, from scratch desserts, smoked meats from a guy in Texas who knows how to smoke brisket and cow. Make sure you check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. I promise you. So go check out Shotgun Willie's Barbecue and Sinkers Beverages.
So this is from a conversation with a Titans fan named Sergey. Lives in Atlanta, hardcore Titans fan. Came to joint practices in both Atlanta and Nashville. Cares about this team. And I quote, are we going to draft Traylon Burks and make mistakes? Sure. We're going to do that. Every team's going to do that. Those mistakes will happen. But feeling some aspect of the leadership, not just kind of walking through and sleepwalking through, matters. They're trying to make this right. Feeling that from the leadership and the decisions that are not willy-nilly, go left, go right, this year we hire this guy and next year we do this. Feeling confident that even though the mistakes are going to be made, I get it from the standpoint that it's hard to run a team. I'm reasonable about that. But make me feel like you're trying to make sound decisions and I'm not just constantly questioning what it is that you're doing. You did this and everyone's crushing us for it. Maybe it's going to work out, but give me some explanation so it feels like I'm connected to the team and that you value me as a fan, that you're putting forth the requisite effort so that we're successful. Even though 9 times out of 10, I understand we're not going to win the Super Bowl. Go ahead.
One of the things that hits me first on this, and I'm not trying to go back to this story, but it is the thing that hits me. And that is, if you the decisions to hire and fire Ran Carthon feel like they got a lot of opinions. A lot of people thinking that that's the problem with the franchise when they first fired Ran Carthon. And I think I do think that you guys know my opinion on that. I think they needed to make that move and that they are clearly doing all the things that you're telling me that they're talking about, which is foundation and identity and culture and people driven and all these other things. I think that is what they're doing now. I think the problem that I have, or maybe the question or the doubt, or I don't know what the right word is, but the people who made the decision to hire Ran Carthon in the first place are still in charge. And that is, it doesn't mean that they're not allowed mistakes. Of course they are. But have they gotten it right this time? I feel like they have, but I don't know. I don't think the fans know. And so I don't know how you explain it to people that, like, yes, these folks feel like they are making to his quote, that they are making decisions that have reasons, that they're sound judgments and the strategies there. Maybe they work out, maybe they don't. I'm not expecting you to be perfect, but here's why you did what you did, and here's the sound strategy behind it. And I don't know if I think that was the problem with the previous general manager and sort of the organizational structure previously.
Sure.
And if you want to point to, like, that was still Amy Adams Strunk decision number 1. Burke Nihil was in the room. I don't know who else was in the room for those decisions, but there are some of the same folks still there. And if they've backed away, which I think they have, and they're letting Borgonzi and Brinker do this whole thing, then I feel more comfortable about it. But it doesn't, it doesn't mean that they're going to just automatically do the right thing every time.
Yeah. Look, I stand by what I was just reading there. I think that as long as people, on the topics of hope, on the topics of vision, on the topics of goals, as long as the Titans get better at explaining the why and taking people into the room to say, this is what we didn't like, this is what we're going for now, that's going to be good. And please understand that you, readers, listeners, consumers of the content, can read between the lines. So if the goal now is draft, develop, retain, you are allowed to read between the lines of what those words mean.
Meaning we're going to suck this year?
If the goal now is to be a people first, high impact, low ego organization, you are allowed to read between the lines about what that means about what the people are saying.
Are you talking about the defensive tack? No, wait, sorry. Continue.
You are allowed to put things together and say, previous employee A might not have personified that belief, or previous employee B might not have walked the walk and talked the talk on these issues.
Between the lines, hypothetically, it seems like a low impact, high ego person. Probably not what they want.
Sure.
But I don't think any organization wants that.
And so if you can attribute the, who didn't favor draft, developing, and retaining, who didn't favor high impact, low ego people, who didn't favor these things that are the buzzwords now, you can answer the questions yourself. They don't need to come out and say, and this is why I didn't like person who got fired.
Yeah. So I want to take all of this and I want to kind of spin it to what we think the Titans' expectations are of this season.
Yeah.
Their goals for this season. And then that allows us to then say, well, here's how we see the team and here's what we think they will accomplish. Does that fit the team's own vision of their season? Because then that ultimately leads to, is Brian Callahan actually at risk of being fired? Is Chad Brinker actually at risk of being fired? Like, who are the folk? Is Denard Wilson actually at risk of being fired? And because if they have an expectation that's here, and our expectation, the fans' expectation is much higher than that, that's not going to match up with how you analyze the people that are in charge. And so you've got to try to guess and assume through all this osmosis and all these conversations, like, what do we think the Titans feel about this season and about this team? And I have not heard from Brinker or Barganzi at any point. Now, we haven't heard from Adrian Strunk since, 2023?
Yeah.
Which is insane.
The last time she talked about anything publicly was 2023, and that was about the stadium. The last time she talked about the team was 2022.
And the Baghdad Bob video with Mike Keith doesn't count, where he's a terrorist hostage there.
Yeah.
Good job, Mike. Here's the thing, number one, just on the side note here, the deputization of people. This is not a Titans only problem. The Predators have done this for years. It's awful. I don't like it. It's not the right way to do it. It's not an anti-Sean Henry thing. It's not an anti-Burke Nihill thing or an anti-Chad Brinker thing. Like, you're the owner. Have the ability to face the people that make you billions of dollars. Like, that's just ridiculous to me. But anyway, that's a side note here. How about this? Before we do the goals and expectations, let's get to Sean's question here real fast. And I know this is out of order and it's kind of like a non sequitur here, but just let's go with it because he asked the question. He asked the question very early, and I want to make sure we get to Sean's question, which I think is actually a super interesting exercise. Look, he says, lads, it's my first time catching the show in a while live, Kansas, but I went to the Kansas State-Iowa State game. Not a great game, but what a day. I need a college football team for the year to go with the Titans. One with better prospects than the Titans this year, preferably. So it's not necessarily tied to Titans draft picks or whatever. So I'm gonna think about this. And I'd like to know, I guess,
Sean, if you're still here, go in the comments and give us 3 qualities you like in a team.
That's what I was like. Do you want to win a championship? Do you want to be outside of the Southeast, or do you want to overlap culturally with the Southeast and the Titans? Like, what is it that you want? Do you want to be? This is sort of like picking an EPL team. This will be good. This will be good for
Sean. We'll give us some qualities, and at the end of the show, we'll come back to this.
Do you want to pick an EPL team that competes for the Champions League every year? That is a top 5 franchise, one of the big 6 in the EPL. That's going to have a lot of money to spend on players and compete for championships. Do you like being in Craven Cottage, in the outskirts of London, and knowing you're never going to win anything, but like you're the little engine that could, like Fulham? for example. So I'm trying to relate back to the folks.
Do you want this to be a 1-year fandom versus
right.
lifetime fandom? Like, there are important qualities here. Let us know.
Right. We'll get to that at the end. All right. So what is your opinion of the Titans' opinion of themselves this year?
I believe that the idea of I want to temper expectations is so persistent that it's coming up to me in off-the-record conversations about the team as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're talking to people who have no cameras or recorders in front of them, they still want to temper expectations. The best way I can describe what I think the Titans want to be this year and think of themselves as this year, and I put this in the story, is that first Dan Campbell, Jared Goff Detroit Lions team that went 3-13-1 or something like that, but they were an absolute pain in the ass to play against. I think they played 7 or 8 one-possession games, lost a bunch of them, but were always a complete pain in the neck if you played them.
And in the game in the fourth quarter.
Competitive. Something that came up, I can't remember if I used the quote, was Brinker wants to be in charge of a team that his fans are always proud of, win or lose. No matter the outcome, still be proud of the Titans. And that is a very long way of saying, hey, that team went 3-13. That was a bad football team. And so if that's the team you're comparing yourself to, sure, you also have the comparison of 2 years from then, the Lions were in the NFC Championship, and now they're the team I'm picking to win the Super Bowl this year. And like, that's a good football team. And
you're picking the Lions to win the Super Bowl? You just slid that one in there.
I am picking I always think that the team that everybody thought was going to win last year is the team that's going to win this year.
Even without Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson, huh?
Especially without them. They're totally off the radar right now. Still got the best roster in the NFL.
I don't disagree. The fact that this is part of my surprise with people picking the Packers to win the division. I'm like, did you watch any of the Lions games with the Packers? Anyway, sorry.
They still have the best roster in the NFL, but nevertheless,
I don't disagree with you. Yeah.
That Lions team that went 3-13, 3-13-1, whatever it was, already had Penei Sewell and Amon-Ra St. Brown on roster.
Did they have Goff?
They had Goff. Okay. And crucially, they'd already traded Stafford, so they also had 2 extra first-round picks over the next 2 years. The Titans don't have any of that, so let's not pretend the Titans are in the same position
they got Cam.
as those Lions.
They got
Cam. I'm talking about the extra draft capital. The Titans have Cam, and that's important to have, but they don't have a proven Pro Bowl tackle, a proven Pro Bowl wide receiver, and 4 first-round picks over the next 2 seasons. You can acquire that. Just, I don't know how.
They did have Titan Khalif Raymond on that team.
They did. And I probably shouldn't say the word proven.
Josh Reynolds, by the way.
I probably shouldn't say the word proven. I believe Sewell was a rookie that year, or maybe St. Brown was a rookie. One of those guys was very young. But
Jamar Jefferson was on that team. They're really trying to replicate the 3-13 season.
But so that kind of team, that kind of experience is what the Titans are chasing. Is even if it's bad this year, be a kind of bad that is respectable within the league. You ask what I think they think of themselves as, that's my answer. They think of themselves as a team that's going to lose more than they win, but is going to be competitive.
Alex Anzalone was on that team. That was his first year there.
Frank Ragnow was on that team. Like, they had some players.
They had TJ Hawkinson, who I think was a first-round pick. Who they have? They have Amani Oruwari. Like, they really do this. The Titans brought in a whole lot of guys that were on this team. Tim Boyle was on this team. They weren't joking about trying to give me some insight into that 2021 Lions team so that I can understand what they're doing. I don't disagree with you. I think progress, and this is what I say with college teams all the time. Everyone always asks, well, how many wins are they going to have? Are they 8-4? And does that get the coach fired? And I'm like, it's how it looks. It's how they got there. It's not the number. It's how they got there. And if they are turning the football, and Brinker said this, I think it was Burke or Brinker, I can't remember, or maybe Ziegler, like fewer penalties, for example, is something they want. Like, they want to be a more disciplined team. And that's how, even if you only get to 5 or 6 wins, which technically is already doubling your win total and making progress, It's how you get to those things. Are you competitive in the fourth quarter? Does your team feel like it's still playing as hard as possible on the last play of the game as the first play of the game? Like all the different things, Cam Ward showing growth. I think a lot of this is going to be about growth and progress. And if by the end of the year you think you found a quarterback and the last two draft classes, and this is how I sort of put a more specific kind of definition on it. And I said this at training camp, at the beginning of training camp, and then I said it at the end, which is that if we are talking about the last two draft classes plus Peter Skoronski, I'm going to use him as a first round pick, high asset. If we are talking about the last two draft classes and Peter Skoronski at the end of the year as the best players on the team and the future of the organization, I think that is a huge step in the right direction.
Yes.
And so if you are talking about Oladejo and Winston and Sweat and Brownlee and J.C. Latham and Cam Ward and Peter Skoronski and all of those pieces, and there's more in there that I'm afraid Io Manor already
Gray.
Io Manor being a starter, right? Like Gray and Williams, and we'll get to Nazir White in a second, or Kazir White, excuse me. I think it's that is sort of how I personally like. If we're doing this show in November and they're out of every race, late November, early December, and they're sort of out of the playoff race, but we come on here and we go, we're talking about those players. I think that is a huge step in the right direction. Yeah. And that's how I would define it. But that is how they're looking at it, guys. They are looking at this as we're starting from the bottom this offseason. Drafting Cam Ward is the first step up the mountain, right? Like they were at the bottom before that. And drafting Cam Ward is the first step up the mountain.
All of that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I think that the judging Callahan part of it, to Sean's question, is the trickiest part of this entire conversation. Is what does growth look like? What does progress look like? Which is a third story that I wrote for this project that I can also recommend, which is I talked to Brinker and I talked to Dave Ziegler directly of, okay, you guys talk about being patient to execute the vision. You talk about having all these goals, having this step-by-step process. What is it? And Ziegler outlined to me the step-by-step process of how to build a football team. Of this is what you draft first, this is what you draft second, all the way down to how every position should look ideally. And Brinker gave me a step-by-step, this is how I chart growth. These are the areas that need to be established first, then second, then third, then fourth. Braden, you have them up, I would imagine. Go for it.
So we'll start with Ziegler. Number one, build the offensive line. Put a premium on players that can protect the quarterback. Okay, they did that with their assets over the last 2 years. We'll see if it works. Build the defensive front. Number two, I think hard to argue that they haven't at least gotten two major pieces of that established with Sweat and Simmons for now.
Yeah.
Obviously, pass rushing is a big problem there. Three, find one-on-one winners in the secondary. That was going to get L'Jarius Sneed in theory. Brownlee, what they decide with Roger McCreary. Kevin Winston, I think, is a one-on-one winner in the secondary potentially. So we'll see about that. And they talk a lot about the Denver defense from 15 and 16. Make sure your quarterback is the head of the snake. They drafted the guy to do that, and they have to believe that that's what they drafted, if that's the case. Be explosive without having to be vertical. I feel like that is very much Brian Callahan's offensive scheme from a passing attack standpoint, is be satisfied with the mundane and then let your athletes go make the mundane more than mundane. And that's number 5. And then number 6, fill out the middle of the defense, which is last on the list for a variety of reasons, but also because that is not their priority right now. Although they did just get White, I guess, off the trash heap. And then if that's how you're going to order it, which is offensive line, defensive line, secondary quarterback, explosive offensive weapons, middle of the defense. If that's how they're going to do it, then you go to Brinker, and number 1 says it starts with continuity. It starts with continuity and stability at the top. That's what we've been talking about here. You must then have a winner at quarterback, not necessarily a Hall of Famer, but somebody who is capable of carrying a team, putting them on their shoulders when it counts in the fourth quarter. Number 3, players who influence games at key positions. Brinker says they have players who have the potential to do that, but not yet. So that's another moment of him going, we're not there yet. Yeah. Number 4, get younger and rely on that youth. Draft, develop, retain. And number 5, be the type of team opponents don't want to see on their schedule. Lions, Dan Campbell's identity in its core. So that is what you have written from Ziegler and Brinker as here's how we do it on the field, here's how we do it off the field.
And for anyone who's listening, if you still have questions about, well, what are they trying to do? There you go. That's what they're trying to do. Are they capable of doing it? Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Dave Ziegler worked for the greatest dynasty in the history of the National Football League. And then it didn't work when he went to the Raiders. But he saw it work in New England. Brinker saw it work in Green Bay, won a Super Bowl in year 1 there. Borgonzi's won 3 Super Bowls in Kansas City. They've all seen it work. Reggie McKenzie's got a couple of Super Bowl rings, if I'm not mistaken. Like, there are people within this organization. Brian Callahan's got a Super Bowl ring. People have seen this work. This is what they are saying works and has worked and what they are trying to apply.
Okay.
Will it work is a totally different question than is there a plan?
Yeah.
That is the plan. I hope that you guys can at least understand and appreciate that much.
What does that mean? Let's get a little bit more specific here with the AFC South and the AFC. It sounds like you're picking the Lions over who in the Super Bowl?
Buffalo. Remember how that was everybody's pick last year? That's my pick this year.
That is actually so. PK picked Tampa over Buffalo. I have Buffalo as well. I think the Bills they're going to get to one at some point, and so I'm just going to keep picking them until they do. They're just too good. They're too talented, too cohesive. They have all the things that you have written about here and we've talked about here with the Titans. Like it is all draft, develop, retain. It is all culture, identity, foundational, long-term, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm taking the Bills. I keep waffling around though, because like the Eagles could just have enough pieces on defense in particular with their weaponry on offense around Hurts to just also be awesome again. Like I feel like I'm overthinking it to try to pick something different. Like Tampa, I really like Atlanta. I think Atlanta could be sneaky. I think Seattle could be sneaky. I think there's a lot of teams in the NFC that are kind of rising, kind of elevating themselves. I think Minnesota takes a step back. I don't know. I think Dallas is Dallas. So I don't know. I think Washington people will figure out because that's what happens in year 2. And then Washington will come back with authority in year 3. That's kind of where I'm at on Washington.
My biggest hot take of this entire NFL season, Jaden Daniels, most valuable player of the National Football League.
I mean, it's possible. I don't know. I just think you always have to not reinvent yourself in your second season as a quarterback, but you got to do stuff. Like I think Bo Nix is great. I think Bo Nix and that Sean Payton offense are going to be great. I still think he's got to do something different.
I've bragged about this before. I still have the text receipts from like January of 2020 talking about Jaden Daniels being the number 1 pick in the draft and a future MVP. I have been in on Jaden Daniels since his Arizona State days. I'm not backing down, man. No.
And look, so it's so funny. So during the pandemic, we all had to get real creative with our content.
Yeah.
And I did long sit-down interviews with, and this is the reason I went, you'll know why I went after. I went and got Phil Longo from North Carolina, who was the offensive coordinator at the time, because he was developing Sam Howell.
Yeah.
I talked to Zach Hill, the offensive coordinator at Arizona State, because that was coming off Jaden Daniels' rookie season where he had freshman season at Arizona State, where he had like 17 touchdowns, 3 picks as a true freshman, like 4-star
throwing
player.
To Brandon Ayuk and Benjamin, like a really good team.
And I was like, how do you do this? What do you do? And they were like, he does it all himself. Like he's out there he's out there. I don't have to coach him because everything was virtual.
Yeah.
Everything was virtual. So I did a whole long, how do you develop a quarterback during a pandemic? like interview series. And one of them was absolutely on Jaden Daniels. I was like, I've got to figure out how you take a freshman who had a great season and make him. So I'm with you on that. And I think some of us saw it very, very early. It doesn't mean that he's not going to struggle a little bit more in year 2 now that the league has film on him. That's all. And frankly, I don't know if the rest of the supporting cast is as good on offense, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So I don't know who to pick in the NFC, honestly. Like, I almost want to pick Philadelphia and Buffalo because I think Philadelphia they are so legitimately good at every position. Their defense is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
And still has lost so many significant pieces.
Right, exactly. All right. So in the AFC, though, the hierarchy feels, and this is what PK and I were talking about, it feels very and we'll kind of move quickly to get to the Titans predictions here, but it feels very quick. It feels very split. It feels like there's 6 or 7 teams at the top, and then there feels like there's a big gap. I don't know if Pittsburgh is the sort of team in between. It feels like Miami's taking a big step back. Here's my question. All the predicted teams are very obvious. It's Buffalo, Baltimore, It's the Texans to win the South. It's the Chiefs. It's a lot of people like the Broncos and the Chargers and the Bengals. Is there a team that's not in that group that you think is good enough to jump in and challenge and take spots or challenge for a division? If it's the Jags, if it's the Titans, if it's the Dolphins, if it's the Patriots, you tell me. It feels like Pittsburgh is the only one that I look at that goes, man, I think they could, with a Hall of Fame quarterback and a Hall of Fame organization, they could bully their way into the playoffs. But other than that, I don't know who's going to step up in the AFC. It feels like a lot of bad teams.
That's what I was about to say, is that it's very boring, but I do think that a 9-8 Pittsburgh Steelers team will sneak in to the playoffs as a 7 seed. I think that is fundamentally inevitable in modern football. But I don't know. I think that the teams that are truly on the rise in the AFC are very, very small. It's a small group. I think the Chargers are on the rise. I think the Broncos are potentially on the rise. There's an argument for Jacksonville being on the rise, but they're run by a bunch of people who have never done this before. So there's
I think they have too much. I think they have too much high-end talent to finish behind the Titans and the Colts. It's kind of how I feel about it. Namely, the quarterback I think is pretty good.
Yeah, I think that you go through the rest of the league. The Raiders kind of sold out for 1 or 2 years here. I think they're better than they were last year, but I don't necessarily know if they're on the rise so much as they went and got a veteran quarterback and a veteran coach and brought back Amari Cooper and drafted a win now running back. And that is a sellout for a couple of years type structure. I don't necessarily think the Dolphins or the Jets or the Patriots are on the rise, but
Patriots are significantly improved.
I still think the Patriots are, just like I was saying with Detroit, just like I was saying with Buffalo, they're a team that I'm going to be higher on next year than I am this year.
The irony is I think the Patriots this year will be the Dan Campbell 2021 Lions.
That is possible, yeah.
Like they will be like a 4, 5, 6 win team, but they'll be a pain in the ass to play against, and you're going to see all the talent there.
Yeah,
you're going to see the pieces there, and I wonder who. And you'll have to give credit to the head coach for doing all of that. So, what if the Titans are better than expected? Says Coach Wills, i.e., the Commanders. Do they stay true to the plan, or the waiver to chase it?
Waiver, as in shake. Waiver spelled without the I.
Gotcha. Meaning, well, I don't know why it's not like hockey or baseball where you have to suck for like 7 years.
Yeah,
and then totally change your plan like the Preds have tried to do back and forth. I think you don't like make huge moves at the deadline. Like I think if you're playing good football, you just let it go.
No, to answer your question, Coach Wills, if they are ahead of schedule, let's say they win 9 or 10 games this year, sneak into the playoffs, first order of business is probably long-term extension for Peter Skoronski. Like, that's what we're talking about with this organization.
Yeah.
It is
retain. It's retention.
It is, this team was good. Who's up for a contract? Roger McCreary's up for a contract. Peter Skoronski is up for a contract. Chig's up for a contract. Yep. Skoronski has the 5th-year option. It will almost certainly be taken. But also, you reward the players early if you want them around.
Yep.
And so I don't think that this is a team that's ever going to say, oh, look, we're ahead of schedule, so let's go invest in the best free agent defensive end possible. Because that's kind of what got them into this mess. Is going out and saying, let's get the best receiver and the best center and the best running back and all this stuff. And I think that these people are steadfast in what they believe. And they believe in their ability to evaluate talent, which means they believe in their ability to draft impact players.
Gunnar Helm.
Play them young.
2 receivers and a tight end in the 4th round is what you're saying?
Because you can look at what Washington's doing and trace the tree. Adam Peters comes from San Francisco. San Francisco, also where Rand Carthon came from, a little bit more of a belief system that's also shared by the Rams and some of these other organizations of execute your window. Win when you can win. It's okay to go down as long as you're up when you're up.
Yep.
Whereas the Titans are coming from organizations that believe in, if you always win 10 games, you're probably going to be in or around the conference championship once every couple of years. And that's the goal. So I don't think that it's going to be a waiver from that identity. That's my read.
This is an interesting one here, Fatty Matty. First of all, one of the top commenters for the new Stillman and Company show on the 440 Sports Network. So, Fatty Matty, good to have you here. Says, Henry, I contend that it's all on Brinker. His bull crap about AI will forever seethe in my brain and is and his inference that they are now smarter than the past regime. His first draft sucked. We'll see. First of all, was that his draft or was that Rand Carthon's draft? I don't know.
And are we talking about 22 or 23?
Or
his first draft with the organization, or 23, 24 is it first draft with the organization or first draft as executive vice president? Or
and you could also argue this was his first full draft. Like we don't know exactly. So
he's had 3 first drafts,
right?
But that first draft, the 23 draft, I don't necessarily say was Brinker's draft. He was not. He was not in charge of scouting. He was not in charge of picking. But that does not mean that he has full exoneration from bad picks. He was there. He was in the room. Yeah. He just wasn't the man pressing the button.
And so I don't want to relive all that stuff. So I don't know how it's all on Brinker, but I think it's all on all these guys. Like it's just as much on Holes as it is on Callahan. It's just as much on Wilson as it is on Callahan. It's just as much on Borgonzi as it is Brinker, and Brinker as it is Nihil, and Nihil as it is Borgonzi. It's on all of them to build the organization the right way. And so I don't know if it, like, I think, let me ask you this. Who do you think, it's not a hot seat conversation, but who is the first to go if things aren't what all the things we've said? And I think the one that has the least impact, and this is not meant to be insulting to Nick Holes, but it's Callahan's offense. And so that's an easy fix for him if he decides to sacrifice the offensive coordinator, bring in a new one. That's always the first change a head coach makes.
Yeah.
If the defense is atrocious, but the offense has clearly made strides, you could see maybe the Denard Wilson being on the chopping block. I don't think Brinker and Borgonzi are anywhere near the hot seat. And for Callahan, in my opinion, to be in that situation at the end of the year, it would have to be pretty bad. It would have to be 3-13, first overall pick with no progress, still sloppy in the second half, still a lot of penalties, still bad special teams, still all the bad stuff that happened last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it has not been lost on me how complimentary Cam is of Bo Hardigree. And he likes Callahan and he likes Nick Holes and all this stuff, but Hardigree tends to be the one that he talks about a little bit more than Holes. And I just... You
know who else loves Bo Hardigree? The rest of the NFL.
Yeah.
The other 31 teams. And if you're going to keep him next year, you have to do what?
But you also
have to elevate him.
You would also believe that if Callahan had to make a change at offensive coordinator, you would want to go get a veteran, experienced play caller he could bounce off of, as opposed to other up-and-comers, because the difference would be, okay, go get you somebody like Mike McCoy, who they went out and got, who is in the room, but make him your offensive coordinator. Yeah. So I just wonder if the tact would be do the Vrabel era thing of promote from within and just keep finding the rising star, or go get somebody else who has totally different brain experience than you. I don't necessarily know if either of them are on the hot seat. I'm not saying...
I don't think anybody's on the hot seat, but a bad season changes people's opinions, especially Amy's opinions. So the question is sort of like prioritize the ones that would be on the hot seat first, maybe, if Amy does decide to change her opinion, and sort of lean down on somebody and say, you guys got to make change here.
For sure.
And I think it's the coordinators first. I think those are the first two to go.
I would say that is feasible. Yeah.
Yeah. Because honestly, here's the thing. That's one of the only things that hasn't changed. The power structure at the top of the coaching staff is the one thing. They changed the quarterback. They changed the general manager. The one thing that did not change is the head coach and 2 coordinators. Like, that's the one thing that is consistent through all of this. So we shall see. Win total for the Titans. Go.
5.
I'll go 6.
Yeah, I think that the 5.5 over under is just about right. 5-6 is the place to be.
I got Houston at 10 wins. I got Jacksonville at 8 wins. I got Tennessee at 6 wins, and I got the Colts at 5 wins. How does that land on you?
That's the order I would put it in as well. I don't necessarily know if I agree on every single number. I haven't thought closely enough about it, but that is the order I would have it as well.
When I do NFL win totals in my head, I don't look at schedules. I don't look at quarterback injuries. I just go like, I think this is a 10-ish win team. I think this is an 8-ish win team. I just kind of look at it broadly on the resume and the record and the roster. All right, you want to try to. We haven't talked anything about the Broncos, which is the first football game that everyone should be super excited about, despite the fact that they are an 8.5-point underdog, the biggest point spread of the entire NFL weekend. I think you're going to learn a lot. I don't think Cam Ward is the thing you're going to learn a lot about here. I think it is the offensive line. And the offensive line is the thing you want to focus on, in my opinion. And some of the rookies, you want to see how they hold up to sort of the poise of the situation. There's going to be some jitters. But if the offensive line only gets beat like a little bit, because I don't expect them to win most battles. But if they are kind of holding their own on every other rep or whatever, every other snap, then I think that you can start to make some positive assumptions about the offensive line. I just don't know if that's going to happen. They could be destroyed the entire game. And if that happens, we're right back where we started. So,
yeah, I think that PK's beat this drum, and I kind of agree with him on this. I'm a little bit less concerned about what's going on up front and more concerned about if Calvin Ridley gets taken away, what can the Titans do? Not to ring my every week bell of cornerback versus volatility. Maybe Pat Surtain gets beat one time. And he gets burnt one time, and Ridley goes for 60 yards, and we think of it as a great game. You never know. Cornerback volatility, right. Incredibly wild. But let's say on an average per stat basis, Ridley is not as open as he normally is. I don't necessarily believe that I have seen enough from Lockett or Iomanor or DK or Jefferson or Oliver
Helm
to say
Chig.
These guys are going to be open play after play, playmakers play after play. So it really does come down to that Ridley-Surtain matchup for me. Nick Bonito is a great player. Jonathan Cooper is a great player. Zach Allen is an incredible player. That is a really good front. That you want to talk. You want to talk about Ziegler saying, "I want to have a defensive front that can win regardless of scheme." That's Denver. Denver has a defensive front that can win regardless of scheme. But I do think that if the offensive line makes the jump from bad to average, like we've been saying all camp, an average offensive line should be able to keep the quarterback non-pressured 4 plays out of 5. If you can have a 20% pressure rate, which seems high, trust me, a 20% pressure rate gets you in the top 6 or 7 in the NFL most years. And so if 4 dropbacks out of 5, Cam Ward has the ability to see downfield, I think this will be an average offensive line. And I think that is plausible. Obviously, we got to see.
I think it'll be 3 out of 5, but okay.
Yeah. We gotta see about Dan Moore's status. Obviously, that's a big deal. But yeah, I think that the downfield playmakers are the issue, and also the defense.
Yeah, well, defense is just the questions there kind of are what they are. It's like I don't know what the middle linebacker situation is going to be next to Barton. I know it's Gray as the starter, but we'll see. Here's the other thing with Kazir White. I think they could be bringing him in to be the starter next to Barton when they're after the 3-week thing, potentially. The problem is that what is Barton's weakness? It's the same as White's weakness, which is the same as Cedric Gray's weakness, which is all coverage. And so my expectation is 3 safeties and nickelback. So lots of heavy dime package potentially, especially with a short passing game from Knicks potentially. I think you're going to look at Helm, Chig, and Pollard as 3 of the top 4 target getters, I think, this week.
Plausible. I could see that.
In whatever order you want to see. So
I would say Chig and Pollard for sure. Helm, we will see. It's his first game in the NFL.
No, I would have Helm as like 4 or 5 in the target list, but I think but that could be 4 or 5 targets. That's all it might take to get to that level, because I don't know how much Iomanor or Lockett are involved in this. Lockett actually could be used a lot on the quick passing game. He could get a lot of targets too, so we'll see. The question is sort of, here's what I want to know. I want to know what Cam looks like if it's out of hand and it's an 8.5 point spread, and we're playing this out in our heads, and it's 24-10 late in the third quarter. Everyone's going to go, here we go again, right? That's how every game felt last year, right? Third quarter, a team pulls away on the Titans. If it's 24-10 going into the fourth quarter, they're going to let Cam kind of just run the 2 minutes, a little bit more 2-4 minute kind of offenses. I want to see how he looks when he's allowed to just play ball, and he's not trying to be super inside the structure like they want him to be in the first half of games or first half of this particular game. Like they want to kind of the governor, as they said, right? Keep the governor on him. I want to see what he looks like when they're like, just go make plays, dude.
Yeah,
because that's a very possible situation in the fourth quarter this weekend. So
inside Cam Ward, there are 2 wolves, etc.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. All right, let's answer this SEC question here for Sean, and then we'll get out of here. Thank you, Sean, for sticking with us till the end. We got to pay off the teas here. Sinkers Beverages, Shotgun Boys Barbecue, Tennessean.com. All right, so here are some of his criteria. Let me see if I can find them here. The criteria are an SEC team with a good chance of making the playoffs. Okay, that's about half of them. Doesn't have to be a powerhouse. Okay. starting to sound like a Tennessee Volunteers fan. I'm open to anyone but Brian Kelly and LSU. They turned me off. They could be my team for life. I am not. I don't want to sell you on the being a University of Tennessee fan, but you are kind of talking about the University of Tennessee.
I have a worse pitch.
Florida. Do not pitch Florida. If you pitch Florida, I'm going to be pissed at you. Florida's awful.
That is the one thing that my Georgia graduate degree will not allow me to do.
We both agree on Florida's trashy. It's a trashy school in a trashy state. Anyway, continue.
Hey, Sean, how do you feel about things that aren't legally defined as Colts but might be?
Auburn Tigers?
Texas A&M Aggies, baby.
Oh, they've never won anything, though.
He's a Titans fan. He's a Titans fan.
Fair enough.
I think that Texas A&M is
lately. Okay.
I think that Texas A&M is a really interesting team to join on to right now.
I think they could be good.
I like what Mike Elko's building. I like their position as kind of little brother in the state, but still with the gigantic bankroll. They're never going to be Texas, but they're always going to feel like they could be Texas. I think that's and they're a fun team to watch this year. I just think that's a good roster.
So if you rank the also Nashville native at quarterback, Marcel Reed. So there you go. There's a tie there. What's interesting is if you rank the programs in the SEC, you like in terms of like how good the programs have been both today, in the future, and in the past, kind of all together, you would probably have A&M, Tennessee, and Auburn probably back to back in some order.
In some capacity.
Because you're probably at the top, you're going to have Alabama, Florida, Texas, and Georgia. LSU's going to be on the top. Then you're going to have like an Oklahoma and Florida kind of in there too. Z Dean's absolutely right about South Carolina. It could be a great team to latch onto this year, a lot of fun, but when they all leave, what it's going to look like, how long-term, they've never done anything. Arkansas is kind of in the same category as South Carolina along with Ole Miss, although Ole Miss is at its highest point right now, so maybe that's a reason to join them. I actually think A&M, Auburn, and Tennessee is the right trio to choose from because they are not the elite of the elite of the elite. They're not, Alabama, but they're also not South Carolina and Arkansas that sort of in this era is tougher to win. So I think it's kind of up to you. I think I think College Station
sales pitch on
College Station is the worst town of the three, by the way, but
it is
irrelevant to somebody.
No, it's not. I have feelings about Auburn.
I love Auburn. I love Auburn.
I do not.
I love it. I love it.
But my final sales pitch. Remember when the Titans used to win 8 games every year? A&M does that too.
I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I think all three heavy cult vibes, all three of them. Yeah. So lots of passion, great fan bases, great stadiums, great home atmospheres, lots of booster money. So you're going to have a competitive team if things are right and you got the right people making decisions. Also, high level of entertainment value.
Yes.
But potentially if you like,
a lot of volatility,
dysfunction and volatility. Yeah. So I would say pick one of those three. I think Auburn will be the most fun this year to watch.
Yeah. Long-term Auburn, you are signing yourself up to have to be an Auburn fan, which is a lot of angst.
It's just a lot of volatility. It's up and down. Yeah.
It's up and down, whereas Tennessee and A&M are a little bit more, the waves are longer, I would say.
And Tennessee's waves have been higher significantly than A&M over the years. So,
yeah. But also, if you are looking for a non-SEC team, I think that just if you're a Titans fan who cares about like draft picks this year, stick with Miami. Like stick with Cam's alma mater. Just stay consistent there. They've got draft picks you're going to care about.
They got Ruben Bain. They got a lot of players.
And Miami is a fun team to be a fan of, and not to be the Irish stereotype, but green and orange. So
I would also I think Oregon is a super fun team to watch. I think Dan Lanning could be there a long time. They've had lots of great coaches. And if you want to sort of second tier down, I love Utah. I don't know how long Kyle Whittingham's going to be there, so maybe that's a reason to not pick them. But I think Utah is a great, fun program to root for. I think Lanning's going to be at Oregon for a long time, so that's you can enjoy that one if you want. If you want to go even lower, root for Tulane, man.
That's what I was about to say.
Tulane is such a fun program. It's in a great city. They know how to hire great coaches. They have money to kind of compete at the G5 level. Tulane's fun. Memphis, maybe if you like to be in the state of Tennessee, I get that. But there you go. All right, so there you have it. Okay. Josh says I'm married to an Auburn alum. That's as close as I'm willing to get to being a fan there. Auburn is undeniably awesome town, though. See, I'm going to end on that note. What are you, like Opelika? Are you a Columbus guy? Come on now.
I don't have to be in any of those things, guy. I have never hooked with that town. It's got one
Auburn.
bar that everybody loves, and I don't like that bar.
I don't care about the bars anymore. I care about the restaurants. And they're just close enough to the ocean to have phenomenal food. They have great food in Auburn.
If you want a town that's one long street with a college and a grove at the end, and then a small downtown, and they're pretty close to the ocean, Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Ole Miss.
No, they're not that close to the ocean.
A grove and a square.
Yeah. Hattiesburg, Mississippi. There's a bunch of trees. There's a campus. There's a long road. There's a small hometown. You're about an hour from the ocean. It's the same place as Auburn.
If you like a city that creates some of the most insane literature in the history of the world, Ole Miss is for you as well.
Oxford, Mississippi.
You and I love Baton Rouge. So he already said no to LSU, but LSU would probably be my number one pick. Like if you were like, just pick a team in the SEC to root for from now on, and you have no information, I would say root for LSU.
Yeah.
The people, the culture, the game day atmosphere, the winning, the colors, the uniform, the food. I love LSU.
And if Brian Kelly turns you off, congrats. You're more of an LSU fan than you already know.
Yeah, you're already an LSU fan. All right. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you guys. Enjoy the game. PK and I are back on Monday. Obviously, check out Stillman and Companies. Check out Nick Suss, Tennessee, and check out the Paul Karski podcast. You got Music City Audible. You got the Hot Read with James Foster and I. We're going to record that tonight. So this afternoon. So we'll have that up for you on Friday, where we kind of break down the Broncos from a film standpoint. So a lot of fun stuff planned on the network each and every week. Stay tuned for all of that. Other than that, for Nick, I'm Braden. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.
Around.